So I'm going to ask Mr. Latham, across corn and soybeans today, are there still contractual or technical barriers that keep you from offering a seed with a competitor's trait stacked alongside another? Could you describe the specific clauses and data obligations?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for the question. Yes, there are restrictive rebates that we fall under as an independent seed company, and it happens a lot to farmers as well. But if we use a alternative and if we fall below, let's say it's usually 85 or 90%, and then we could fall off basically a cliff and could lose our whole profitability for the year.
And Mr. Compass, farmers report rebate clawbacks, delayed allocations, and audit threats after trying rival products and services. Could you give us some details of the recent incidents where a supplier or retailer used rebate leverage or allocation delays to punish switching?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Oftentimes, our pricing structure on our farm is the more we buy, the cheaper it gets. I haven't personally experienced a rebate callback, but it is very clear when we're purchasing products that the more we buy, the cheaper the product gets, driving us down into we need to try and stack that to stay profitable, limits our options.
Mr. Levine, your organization says on its website that your membership includes 85% of all private U.S. seed companies operating in the United States, both big and small. Is there a disagreement among your members regarding antitrust and intellectual property issues, laws, and enforcement?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. We're pretty consistent with respect to intellectual property laws. It's a key pillar for our strategic plan, and it feels like that's where our companies make investments as technology continues to improve and we bring more products to farmers. We also believe very strongly that our members have their own strategies for how they implement intellectual property practices. We don't judge those by the companies. That's not our position as an association. So whether they choose patents or PVPs or licensing or just trade secrets, those are all tools that all innovators in the U.S. have available to them.
Yeah. Doctor, this question would be to Moss, Rosenbach, and Levine. Only one of the four largest companies controlling the ag market is U.S. owned. In your opinion, does this represent any national security risk to our country?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to chime in on that. Having a concentrated market with just a few firms operating in that market or a dominant firm absolutely represents national security risks, especially in food and agriculture. We've talked about market power bottlenecks where producers and consumers are at the behest of a very powerful company in terms of prices paid for commodities and prices paid for food. So we have to be extra vigilant in food and agriculture to enforce our antitrust laws to ensure that we have competitive markets and the ability for smaller innovative entrants to get in and to have a go of it.
Yeah. Do the other two, if you want to add to that or express your own view, I invite the two of you to do that as well.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. When we look at this, we obviously have antitrust respect for the U.S. laws and for our own antitrust policies within the association. So we don't have a position with respect to how contracts are done or pricing is done, anything along those lines from the member standpoint. We want very strong intellectual property rights. We know that the American market is one of the most competitive in the United States, and we would like to continue that process. This is where the innovation in our industry is done, and that's why we're the leaders globally. So we would like to continue that as we go forward, and hopefully that competition continues to stay strong.
You have anything to add, Mr. Rosenbush?
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. I would just say that on the fertilizer side, most of the U.S. producers are U.S. owned.
Okay. For you, Mr. Rosenbusch, when a single foreign supplier dominates an essential input and Commerce and ITC impose duties that may choke off that source, what specific safeguards would the Fertilizer Institute support to prevent a de facto domestic monopoly and keep farmers supplied?
Thank you, Chairman Grassley, for that question. The trade cases that you're referring to there are complex and have been adjudicated through the International Trade Commission. At the Fertilizer Institute, we have both of those members on both sides of that case. So a wise man once told me, when you have two members on both sides of the issue, go with the member. And so we don't have an official policy on any of those trade remedy cases. I will tell you that there were many factors when that case came forward in 2020 that impacted the market and impacted the supply. A lot of those tons ended up being filled by Saudi Arabia and other countries.
If you, I'm going to, we have some statements here from people that want to get into the record. Statements and letters from several groups, including the Iowa Corn Growers Association. I'm going to ask unanimous consent to those statements be put in. There's nobody here to object. Dr. Moss, in plain English, where's the line between licensing that speeds innovation and licensing that walls off rivals, especially for stacked traits? Do you support narrowly tailored measures similar to the fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory agreements? If so, why?
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. So I think two things quickly in response to that question. Antitrust does a very difficult dance with intellectual property law. Our intellectual property laws are extremely important for spurring incentives to engage in R&D and to innovate products. But as we've seen in the pharmaceutical industry, there can absolutely be trouble ahead when firms use intellectual property rights to shape or to control how competition develops. We've seen that with product hopping and generic seeds, where generics have been kept out because of small changes in patents and another 20 years of patent protection. So that's the first answer. The second is, if we do get into the business of standard-setting organizations where the large biotech companies will be needing to figure out what the standards are. It will be a very complex and difficult process given how much trait stacking there is. And determining what is a fair price for a license, of course, would be even more complex, and that will require a good deal of government oversight, and I would expect it would generate an enormous amount of controversy.
My last question will be to Mr. Levine and Dr. Moss. I want to understand why generic insect-resistant traits haven't materialized despite patent expiration. I understand that there does not appear to be a single generic insect-resistant trait available to growers, notwithstanding frameworks touted as solutions. Why is this the case?
My first response would be, again, the ag biotech industry has borrowed a page from pharmaceuticals, filing for new patents based on very minor modifications, which then locks in another 20 years of patent protection and the ability to charge monopoly prices. The FTC currently has a case looking into loyalty discounts in pesticides. That is another way to lock farmers into cropping systems and limit the ability of farmers to switch. Lack of interoperability exacerbates this problem. So we are nowhere near on top of these types of abuses of intellectual property that are really designed to stifle and to control competition.
Mr. Levine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as we look at it, just to reiterate, we're not in the practice of collecting what the practices of the members are or how they license or charge fees. It's against American antitrust law, so I'll make comment from the respect that we support products coming to market. This is much more difficult than other chemicals or pharmaceuticals or things along those lines that come to the marketplace after that expiration. You're looking at a lot of products where it's maybe the BT product, but you're also looking for stacks of other products with that. And then also newer varieties as they come along. Is somebody going to want to stack that on a 20-year-old variety that's off patent, or do they want a new variety that is more resistant and has disease resistance in it? So the plant breeding process and the trait development process is an evolving process as we go along, and it's not just static. We're not planting the same seed varieties we did 20 years ago. We're trying to bring that newest product to the farmer. The ASTA has been involved in driving the ag accord to try to give that platform for generics coming to the marketplace. But it's been a challenge, and it's one that we need to continue to work with Congress and work with the administration, EPA, and USDA to try to provide that pathway for companies that choose to go to the generic traits and varieties.